Welcome back to On the Same Page. We are on Daf Ches Amud Aleph, 8a of Maseches Brachos, starting at the very bottom line of the page. Amar Rav Huna bar Yehuda, Amar Rabbi Ami. Rav Huna bar Yehuda said the name of Rabbi Ami, Olam Yashlim Adam Parshiyosaf Im Hatzibur, Shnai Mikra ve'echad Targum. A person should always literally finish their portions with the congregation, twice Mikra, twice reading the verses, and once reading the translation. What the Gemara is saying is the mitzvah, or the rabbinic enactment, obligation, to do Shnai Mikra ve'echad Targum, to read each parsha the week that the parsha falls out. One should read the parsha inside twice, and in the Hebrew, and once with the translation. Top of the next page. Va'afilu ataros v'divan. And they should even reread the read the translations of things that have no translation because they're names. Like ataros v'divan, which replaces, so when you read the translation, you should still read the reread those words again. In which case you have to read it 3 times. Fine. Why? Shekol hamashlan parshiyosav imatzibor marichin lo yama bushnosav. The Gemara says that if you finish the parsha each week, our girsa is marichin, you merit length of days and years. Others have a version that says mashlimin lo yama bushnosav, which maybe fits better because then it means it's like a midah k'neged midah, it's a reward, measure for measure. If you finish the parsha, then your parsha gets finished. You get to finish off, you get to live out a full life. Okay, Rabbi bar Abaye savar lashlaminu leparshi elsa dekula shasa v'mal yoma dekipuri. Rabbi bar Abaye wanted to finish off all the parshas of the whole year on Erev Yom Kippur. Not clear if it means yeah, so in the Masaras Hashas, it explains that some have a girsa, some have a version that said he wanted to finish the Parshiyasa, not Dekula Shasa, not of the whole year, but Parshiyasa Dekala, of the Yarchikala, meaning they twice a year would go and get together to learn, once before Rosh Hashanah and once before Pesach. So those weeks when they were involved in the Yarchikala and the getting together to learn, he didn't have a chance to finish his Shnai Mikra. So at the end of the year, before Yom Kippur, he wanted to catch up on those parshas that he missed. So it's either that or just in general he had catch up to do. If you don't have that girsa, if you have our girsa, Dekula Shasa of the whole year, he wanted to. It seems he had catch up to do. He wanted to do on Erev Yom Kippur. Tana Lechia bar Rav Midifti, but Rav Chia bar Rav Midifti said it's a busy day Erev Yom Kippur. You think that Erev Yom Kippur is there's nothing going on, and therefore you want to catch up on your Shnai Mikra. No, it's a busy day. Why? Ksiv, because the pasuk says Vini semes nafsho sechem b'tishal chodesh ba'erev. It says regarding Yom Kippur that you should afflict yourselves on the 9th of the month in the evening. So Yom Kippur is on the 10th. So the 9th of the month in the evening after the 9th is the 10th. So it says you should afflict yourself. That's when you should have the afflictions of Yom Kippur. But ask the Gemara, Mechi b'tisha mesana, but do we fast on the 9th? The 9th in the evening, it's really Velo b'asara mesana. It's on the 10th. By the time night comes, it's the 10th. So why does it say it that way, that you should do it on the 9th in the evening? It's coming to teach you Kala ochel b'shose b'tishi Mala lavakosov kilo misane teshiva asiri. It's to teach you that if a person eats and enjoys on the 9th of Tishrei, Erev Yom Kippur, so it's tantamount to having fasted both the 9th and the 10th. So by describing that you are afflicting yourself on the 9th in the evening, it's telling you, Gemara doesn't fully explain how the drasha works, but it's telling you that it could be like you fasting on the 9th. And how so? It's if you prepare for Yom Kippur by eating on the 9th. The point is that it's a busy day. You have a mitzvah to eat on Erev Yom Kippur. So Rabbi Bar Abaye wanted to spend the whole day doing Shnai Mikra, catching up on the Shnai Mikra that he had missed. And Chia Bar Rav Midifti told him, actually, it's a busy day, you have eating to do on Erev Yom Kippur. Okay, so Savar Lak Du Minhu. So then he thought that maybe just in general, a better plan would be to do them in advance in the future. So to make sure that he didn't get behind, he could do them all in advance. Just take a Shabbos or two and read through all the parshas of the year, and that way you're covered for the year. That's what he thought he should do. Amar le'ahu Saba, but then a certain elderly man told him, Tanina was taught, Ubilvad shelo yakdim v'shelo ya'acher. One may not do them early, or one should not do them late even. So if one's stuck, then one can do them late. But one should not do them early. So it should be done, Shnai Mikra should be done during the week that the parsha falls out. You can't just read through all of them in advance to fulfill this obligation of Shnai Mikra. Kita Amar Lahu, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Libanye, like Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi told his children, Ashlim Parshiyos Seichel Imatzibor Shnai Mikra V'Echatargum. You should finish the parsha with the tzibur Shnai Mikra V'Echatargum. It should be done the week that the congregation is reading that parsha, and it should not be done early. Now he also told his children, changing topics here, V'Yizaru Bivridin, you should be careful with the vridin. The vridin is the jugular of the bird. Rabbi Yehuda, like Rabbi Yehuda said, Ditna Rabbi Yehuda Omer Ad Sheyishchot Es HaVridin, that one should, when one shechts a chicken, they should shecht even the vridin, which apparently is the jugular, and the issue is not the kashrus of the bird per se. It's considered shechta without cutting that vein, but you want to get rid of the blood in advance, rather than have all that blood in that vein still there when you go and roast the bird. And he also told them, V'yizaru b'zakein sheshachach talmudo machmas onso. Be careful, be cautious when, and I guess respectful, when dealing with a zaking, an elderly Talmud Chacham who has forgotten his learning. Damrinan, because we say luchos v'shivrei luchos menachos ba'aron. Not only do they keep the luchos, the 2 tablets that were intact in the aron, in the ark, but they also kept the broken tablets. Even though they're broken, but they still have that holiness. They don't have the words per se anymore, but they have the holiness still. So too, a Talmud Chacham who is broken, so to speak. He's old and he's lost his memory, or he's weak. He can't think. He may have forgotten his learning, but he's still a vessel that held Torah, and he's like a broken luchos, but it's still it's holy. It has to be treated with respect, just like the broken luchos were kept in the ark. Okay, now some other life advice. Amar Lahu Rava Lebanye, Rava told his children, Kishatem chotchling basar, when you cut meat, al techatcheo agav hayad, don't cut it on the back of your hand. Apparently, one would possibly put a piece of meat on their hand, and then cut like this. Doesn't sound very wise, but maybe in those days, plates and cutting boards were harder to come by. So he said, don't cut it that way. Now, why not? So, ikadamri mishum sakana. Some say he was concerned it's dangerous. You could cut off your hand. Ikadamri, and some say mishum kilko su'uda. Others say no. He wasn't concerned they were going to cut off their hand, but they might even just give themselves a small cut, which could create a lot of blood, and that's going to make the food dirty, and it's going to be disgusting to anybody who's eating there. So don't cut meat over your own hand, because your hand might start to bleed onto the food. Okay, another piece of advice that Rava told his children is al teshvu amita aramis. Don't sit on an Aramean's bed. Ve'al ta'avru achore beis hakneses b'shasha tzibur mispalan. Don't pass by behind the shul while the tzibur is davening, while the congregation is davening. And the Gemara will now examine both of these statements. Don't sit on the bed of an Aramean, and don't pass by the back of a shul. Don't sit on an Aramean's bed. Some say what he meant was, don't go to sleep without saying the Shema. If you go to sleep without saying the Shema, your bed is like that of an Aramean. You're not a Jew. You're like an Aramean if you don't say Shema before you go to sleep. That's what he meant, don't sit on the bed of an Aramean. Make sure you say Shema before you go to sleep. Some say that he was telling them not to marry a convert, which then, if he was married to someone who's Aramean, someone who's from another nation, that's what he was telling them. Don't sit on their bed. And some say Aramis mamish. Some say no, he meant it literally. Don't sit on the bed of an Aramean. Why was he telling them that? Because of a certain story involving Rav Papa. Rav Papa azal gabe Aramis. Because one time, Rav Papa went to see this Aramis woman. Doesn't say why, what he was doing there, but he was there. Hotzia lo mita. She brought out a couch, a mita, a bed for him to sit on. Amra lo shev. And she said, have a seat. I'm not going to say until you lift up the sheets. I want to see what's under there. He sensed that she was trying to frame him. Higbiya samita. They lifted up the bed or the sheets. Umatsu sham tinok mes. And they found there was a dead baby underneath. So, based on that story, the Chacham said, Asr leish v'amita aramis. You may not sit on the bed of an aramis. So this was an original blood libel, attempt at least. She had a dead baby. She wanted Rav Papa to be held responsible. So she put the baby under the sheets and asked him to sit down so that he would kill the baby, even though the baby was already dead. And he caught her on it, and he did not sit. But there, based on that story, the Chacham said, don't sit on the bed of an Aramean woman. Okay, the other thing that Rava told his children is don't pass by behind the shul when the congregation is davening. This supports Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, as Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi said, it's forbidden to pass by the back of a shul, behind the shul, when everybody else is davening, because it looks like you're running away from the door of the shul. Looks like you're trying to get away. Amar Abaye said, "V'lo amar al deleka pischachrina." That's only if there's not another entrance. Aval ika pischachrina, leslan ba. If there's another entrance, so you're passing by behind the shul, so you're going to the other entrance. So you'd be allowed to pass by to get to the other. I think he means to get to the other entrance. And also, that which you say you can't pass by behind the shul is only if there's not another shul. But if there's another shul, then we'll say you're not trying to run away from shul, you're just going to a different shul. If there's another shul, then you don't have to worry about it. And they also only say if you're not carrying a burden. If you're carrying a burden, so you're busy, that's you're not something you despise the shul, it's just you're working. Also, if you're not running, If you're running, so we see you're in a hurry, you're busy, it's not that you reject the shul, you're just very busy. V'lo manach tefillin, and you're not wearing tefillin. If you're wearing tefillin, they also are not concerned because clearly you're a God-fearing Jew, you're wearing tefillin. So that which you're avoiding the shul is not because you reject it. But if you have any of those, if he's carrying a burden, or he's running, or he is wearing tefillin, then he's allowed to pass behind the shul, and he won't be suspected of being someone who is trying to just escape the shul. Okay, Tanya. So once we discussed cutting meat before, so we come back to that topic. Amar Rabbi Akiva said, Bishlosha dvarim oev ani hamedim. I love the Medians, those from Madai, for three reasons. There's three things I love about them. First of all, when they cut their meat, they cut it over a table, not over their hand. So they have good, it was either a concern of the danger or the hygiene or the sanitary, not to get blood on your meat from your hand. So they cut it over the table. That's good. Secondly, when they kiss each other, they kiss each other's hands. They don't kiss each other in the face or the lips, which would be a lack of modesty. They kiss each other on the hand. This is in public. And when they give each other advice, they do so in private settings in the field where nobody can hear. Which is also good, so nobody overhears the private advice that they give each other. Rav Ada bar Ava said, Ma'ikra, what is the meaning of the pasuk? It actually can be derived from a pasuk. When Yaakov is getting ready to depart from Lavan's house, so he summons Leah and Rachel to tell them about his plans. Where does he bring them to? To the field, the pasuk says, because something private should be done in a field where there's no ears. There's nobody behind a wall listening. And that's what the Medians would do also. Tanya, we have another brisa. Amr Rabbi Gamliel. Rabbi Gamliel said, B'shlosh dvar ov ani haParsim. There's three things that I love the Persians for. Hein tznuim b'achilasa. They're modest in the way that they eat. Utznuim b'veis, and they're modest in their use of the bathroom. Utznuim b'davar achar. And they're also modest about how they engage in relations, and so they have this general trait of modesty, three applications of it, in the way they eat, in the way they relieve themselves, and in the way they have relations. Now, despite that positive praise for the Persians, he then says, the Gemara then quotes a pasuk that puts them in their proper place. It says in Yeshaya, "Ani tzivesi lemekudashai," I have commanded my sanctifiers, and it's talking about the destruction of Babylonia. And Hashem saying, like I've commanded those who will sanctify me to get rid of the Babylonians. Now that's going to be the Medians and the Persians. So how can we praise them? So Tanya Rav Yosef, Elu haParsim hamukudashim u'mezumanim leGehenim. What it means by they're sanctified, it really means not sanctified, but they're dedicated, designated. They are dedicated and designated for Gehenna. That's why they're described as mikudashai. So even though we gave them some positive remarks, but then the Gemara turns and says, but don't worry, they are designated for Gehenna. Okay, so now the Gemara comes back to the first Mishnah where it all began. And in the Mishnah we had three opinions about until when can one say Shema at night. Rabbi Eliezer said until the end of the first watch. The Chacham said until midnight. And Rabbi Gamliel said you have all night, all the way until Amud HaShachar, until the morning. So, says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel, halacha ki Rabbi Gamliel. The halacha is like Rabbi Gamliel, that you have all night long. That's at least what Shmuel said. Just to clarify, I believe what he's saying is, Rabbi Gamliel explained that really you have all night, and the Chum said to do it until Chatzos because you're supposed to make sure that you get it done. And that's what we're asking, that you have all night, but you should really try to do it by Chatzos, midrabanan. Tanya, Reb Shimon Yochai Amar. We're going to a brayso. Reb Shimon Yochai said, Pa'amim sha'adam kar kriyash mashtei pa'amim b'layla. It can happen that a person will read Shema twice in the night. Achas kodem she'alam ad hashachar, achas la'achar she'alam ad hashachar. Once before daybreak, and once after. Once before dawn, and once after dawn. V'yotze b'an yidecho vaso. And he'll fulfill his obligation, achas shal yom v'achas shal layla. He'll fulfill the daytime obligation and the nighttime obligation. So it's a strange brisa. It says that a person at times will read the Shema twice at night, once before daybreak and once after, and they'll fulfill both the day and the night. Says the Gemara, that doesn't make sense. Hagufa kashya. It contradicts itself. First you said sometimes a person will read Shema twice at night. So we see that even after dawn, it's still called night, because that's the two times that we're talking about. But then it said you fulfill your obligation for the daytime and the nighttime. So which one is it? After dawn, I guess before sunrise, between dawn and sunrise, is it night or is it day? First it called it night, and then it seems to call it day. We see it's daytime. Says the Gemara lo. Really, between daybreak and nates and sunrise is nighttime. So why is it called day? Why did we call it day? Because there are people who rise at that time, and therefore it's uvkumecha, it's the time that you get up. People get up at that time, and therefore you could say Shema of the daytime already during that time. It's not really Shema of the daytime, it's Shema of the getting up in the morning. So really, what we're saying is that it's still considered night, but it's already time to say the Shema of Kumecha, of getting up. So what Rav Shimon Yochai was saying is a person can end up reading the Shema twice at night, once before daybreak and once after daybreak, and the one that they're reading after daybreak could count as Uf Kumecha, as the one for getting up, but it's not really daytime yet. Amar Rav Acha bar Chanina, Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Levi. Rav Acha bar Chanina is saying the name of Shimon Levi. Halacha Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. The halacha is in accordance with Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai that it's possible to do this. Now, that it's possible to read twice a night. Now, some had that last statement of Rav Acha bar Chanina going on a slightly different conversation, very similar but a little bit different. Tanya, because we have a brayso, Rav Shimon Yochai Omer Mishum Rabbi Kiva. Rav Shimon Yochai said name Rabbi Kiva Pamim she'adam karesh kriyash mashtei pamim bayom. So this version has him saying that before we said sometimes a person can read Shema twice at night. Now he's saying sometimes a person can read Shema twice in the daytime. Achas kodem anitzachama ve'achas la'achar anitzachama. Once before sunrise and once after sunrise. And they will fulfill their obligation. Both of the day and the night. So again, hagufa kasha. Again, we have a contradiction within itself. Because originally we said sometimes a person will read Shema twice in the daytime. So we see that before sunrise is already called day. Because we said both night and we said that you're reading it before sunrise and after, and you're fulfilling it twice in the day. So it sounds like before sunrise, after daybreak, after dawn, is considered day. The other tongue, but then it said, that you'll fulfill your obligation for day and night. So you're reading it twice in the day, and you're fulfilling your obligation of day and night. So how is that? So we see that before sunrise is considered night. So which one is it? Says the Gemara, top of the next page, it says, no, li'olam yamamahu. Really, it's already day. So between dawn and sunrise, we're suggesting now is already day. Before we said it's really night. Now we're saying it's day. V'hai dekaru le'lelia, so why do we call it night? Because there are people who are still sleeping at that time. So we're referring to it as night because it could qualify as when you lie down, meaning when you're sleeping. So really, for I guess most other intents and purposes, it's considered daytime already after dawn, after daybreak. But with regards to Shema, you can still fulfill your obligation of the nighttime, which is not the nighttime really, it's v'shachbach, it's when you lie down, and it's still a time of sleeping until sunrise, and therefore you could still fulfill the obligation of the night before. Amar Rabbi Acha Rabbi Chanina, and about this, Rabbi Acha Rabbi Chanina said, Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Levi, halacha Rabbi Shimon, sha'amar Mishum Rabbi Akiva. The halacha is like Rabbi Shimon in the name of Rabbi Akiva, meaning that what we just said, that you can fulfill that sometimes a person will read Shema twice in one day, and fulfill the obligation of both the day and the night, because by night we really mean of b'shachbach, of lying down, and we're talking here about reading Shema between daybreak and sunrise, and we're saying now it's really considered day, but it's still considered b'shachbach, it's still the time that people are sleeping, and so you could still fulfill the obligation of Shema from the night before. So these two versions of Reb Shimon ben Yochai and Reb Acha bar Chanina saying the halacha is in accordance with him have an important difference. They're arguing, they're split over the question of whether the time between daybreak and sunrise is considered night or day. According to the first version, it was considered night. And even after sunrise, we called it night, but not that it was really night, it was really day. But we call it night because people are... sorry, excuse me, I said that wrong. The first version was talking about reading it before and after daybreak. Excuse me. The first version had it that you can read it before and after daybreak. Before daybreak is certainly night. After daybreak, we said, is also called night. It's also considered night, but it still could be uv kumecha. It could be considered the time that people get up, and you could fulfill the obligation for the daytime, the getting up time. The second version had the opposite. The second version said that if you read it before and after nates, before and after sunrise, so after sunrise is certainly daytime. What about before sunrise? We're in that same zone between daybreak and sunrise. We just finished saying that it's really considered night, but it's still considered the time you get up. Now we're saying in the second version it's really considered day, but it's still considered the time you lie down. People are still sleeping at that time, and so it's possible to still fulfill the mitzvah from the night before of uveshachbcha, when you lie down, and so that zone between daybreak and sunrise, depending on which of these two lashonos, which of these two versions, it's either really nighttime, but you can fulfill the daytime Shema, or according to the second version, it's really daytime, but you can still fulfill the nighttime Shema. Okay, we'll continue from the top of Tes Amar Aleph, 9a, next time, Be'ezras Hashem.